Travis Scott's Utopia is finally here and is getting some mixed reviews online, and I kind of understand where it's coming from. Many wanted Astroworld 2, but instead we got Utopia. It's a different album. To me, it sounds like a movie, an audio movie type of thing where you want to listen to it from top to bottom or bottom to top. It's definitely different, and because it's a movie, you might not want to listen to it over and over again. But there are some tracks in there that I think many of you will like, or many of the listeners will like, and one of them we're going to remake today, and that is Meltdown. The tempo for this one is 112 beats per minute, and it's produced by Coleman, BNYX, Boy Wonder, Vinylz, Take Heath, and Skeleton Cartier. So for this video, we're only going to be making part 1 of this track, the Drake part. So let's get to it. We're going to start off with the main strings that play out throughout the entire part 1. And we're going to go bring in Logic's vintage MELTDOWN. We're going to use the default setting that loads up. We'll adjust it in a bit. Let's go and just draw in that pattern. All right, so there's the pattern right there. We're just gonna go ahead and duplicate that over. And let's open up Logic's vintage MELTDOWN and adjust the sound. So the first thing we're gonna do is pull down the tone knob here to about 9 o'clock to get that dark, eerie vibe. And then we're gonna hit this arrow icon right over here to adjust the attack and release. So we want it to build up. Maybe a little slower. And we want the notes to blend in, so we're going to drag out that release. Next, we're going to go ahead and bring in a chorus just to thicken this up. We're going to bring in Logic's chorus, and we're just going to use the default setting that loads up. Next thing that we're going to do is going to bring in an instance of wavy, and it's just going to add in some space and reverb that we need for this sound. All right, next, let's go ahead and create another layer to the string sound. We're gonna create a new software instrument track. We are gonna go over to our browser over here. We're gonna go to strings, studio strings, and we're gonna go to studio violas. We're gonna go ahead and duplicate this pattern down over here. Now, obviously that's a little too loud, so we're gonna go ahead and open up the strings plugin. And we're just gonna bring down the volume quite a bit here. And as well, we also want to pull up the release to about 10 o'clock, and we're going to pull up the attack as well, just a little bit. And we layer that with our other strings. Just fills it out. Next, we're going to bring in like this space artifact blippy thing that I heard in the background. And to me, it sounded like the Lex Luger riser effect. So we're going to go ahead and bring that in. I'm not sure if that's what they used in the track or like a rendition of it, but it sounded pretty close. So let's go ahead and bring this in here. And we're just going to chop it up to make sure that it loops throughout the entire section. So it's going to go like this. And before it gets too bright, we're just going to chop it right there. And then we're going to go ahead and loop that up. And we're going to reverse this. So we're going to go to our inspector tab and go to reverse. I'm just going to lower it a bit here. And then we're just going to cut this last half over here, and we're going to reverse that as well. So it's going to be like this up and down pattern. Then we're just going to go over to a fade tool, and we're just going to add in a little bit of fade between these sort of edits here. We'll add in a little bit of fade at the end and at the top. And of course that is way too bright, so we got to bring in an EQ, and we're going to filter out a lot of the top end. So we're going to go over to our high end here and just filter that out. And we'll just pull that back a little bit more. We don't want too much of the high end in there. I'm just going to pull it back. And let's take out some of the low end here as well, just to cross-reference it. See, that kind of gives you that sort of spacey thing in the background. And then all we got to do is bring in a reverb in the background. So we're going to go over to our effects and we're going to bring in Logic Space Designer. We'll just use the default setting that loads up. And together. We sort of have that ambient sort of moving texture that's happening in the background using the Lex Luger riser. Next, let's go ahead and create a new soft instrument track and start to layer up some pads and synths in there just to thicken this up. So I'm going to bring in Logic's Alchemy, and we're going to go to pads, and we're going to go over to the 90s Luscious pad preset. We'll leave the default setting for now. Let's go ahead and just draw in that pattern. Once again, that is too bright, so let's go ahead and open up Logic's Alchemy. I'm just going to pull back the cutoff here. Next, let's create another layer. I'm going to create a new software instrument track. And we're going to go over to Logic's Alchemy once again. This time we're going to go over to strings. We're going to go to synthetic. And we're going to go to the analog smooth preset. For this, we're going to just go ahead and draw in one chord, and it's going to go like this. It's just the G minor. Push that down one octave. I'm going to open up Logic's Alchemy. I'm just going to adjust the sound a little bit. We're going to move it over, or at least the performance over to a little bit of the warm setting here. Pull up the chorus a bit. Reverb. And together. And now we're starting to fill up this sample. Next, let's add in one more layer. I'm going to bring in another instance of Logic's Alchemy. We're going to go over to strings. We're going to go to large ensemble, and we're going to go to the strings dark purple preset. And we're just going to pretty much copy down the same pattern. And it gives you more of like a synthetic, but mixed with a real set of strings. And we're not going to adjust anything. Just going to mix that in. Next, what we're going to do here is just select everything here. Going to group it, Shift Command G, and we're going to manipulate this sample as a whole. I'm going to bring in an EQ. We're just going to take out a little bit of the lows here, a little bit of the mids, make it a little bit brighter. And then we're going to bring in a reverb just to make this in its own room or setting. We're going to go over to our effects. We're going to bring in Logic's Chromaverb. And we're going to bring in like an effects type of reverb, effects cave. We're just going to leave it as is, and it's going to sound like this. Makes it even bigger. Now, all we need to do is add the drums. I'm going to bring in a new software instrument track and bring in the Meltdown Part 1 drum kit. I'm going to find it here under my user patches, drum kits, and I created the kit prior to recording this video. Here it is right here, Meltdown Part 1. And let's start off with something easy, like the snare. Next, let's get to the hi-hat, and we're just gonna draw in an 8th repeat. Now there are some rules in there, so let's get to that. That's pretty much it. Next, let's get to the kick. Next, open hat 1. Now let's layer that open hat with another one. Just gonna add in a top one here, except put it to its root note. Let's see if that's the root. Yep. All right, now let's get to that Vox sample. And lastly, that 808. All right, now we're just gonna move on in the arrangement a little bit. And all we're gonna do is cut out this set of strings right here. We're just gonna change this back to a scissor tool. I'm gonna cut that out here. I'm gonna mute this and we're gonna pitch this down 1 octave. I'm gonna mute this as well for this section. That's really all there is to Meltdown Part 1. I'm just gonna go ahead and mix it, arrange it a little bit, and we'll come right back and listen to the remake that we just put together, Travis Scott's Meltdown. That right there is the remake to Meltdown Part 1 by Travis Scott. For your Logic users out there, I'm going to go ahead and save this entire session for you, place it as a downloadable link below this video. If you don't use Logic, I got your back as well. I'm going to go ahead and export all the MIDI stems, audio stems, and of course include the drum kit that you heard in this remake. You can find that playback down below the like button. If you do have any questions on this or just want to chat, let's go and talk in the comment section below. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll catch you on the next one. Later.